the Northwest Neighborhood Meeting. And my name is Kari Kwas. It is the last meeting of our spring season, which I'm very excited about. So we'll take the summer off. I think that after 15 months of pandemic and trying to kind of keep engaged, we're ready for summer, ready to get outside and do some fun stuff. So thanks for being here tonight. I do actually have some slides just to kind of get us up with what is going on. So bear with me 1 second. Of course, everything's funky. Anyway. You should be able to see that. I started to hit share and now it's somewhere else. But anyway, our agenda this evening, welcome to everybody. We have some officials with us, Paul Roberts on City Council, David Simpson from the Port of Everett, and I believe June Robinson just joined in, our senator, our state senator. So welcome to everybody there, and other steering committee members from Northwest. Also tonight, I'm hoping we do have an officer from Everett Police. We were hoping to talk about the car racing here in Northwest. And also tonight we have some representatives from the UFCW, and they are RNs at Providence. And so we will hear from them too. And that's enough of the sharing as I see who is actually in there. Yeah. Okay. So without further ado, oh boy, I am going to make Mary a host, a co-host, so she can help me moderate the fun that we're having this evening. I already kicked one of these names out. We'll see how it goes. I know Diane's good. Okay, anyway, good times. Yeah.
Hi, I have invited.
I'm gonna get rid of her. Okay, she can come back if she wants. My apologies. So we don't seem to have an officer yet. So I'm gonna actually jump ahead. Fabiola, would you like to talk about what's going on at Providence? The reason that they reached out is that they're in negotiations with the hospital. And so we just wanted to hear from their perspective about what is going on. So by all means, unmute yourself. We will try to keep it quiet for you, and then we'll have some questions. So go ahead.
Actually, I think there's a Matt is on the trying to get in, and he's an RN that works in your neighborhood that is going to be speaking.
Is that Mateo?
It would be Matt.
Yeah, this is him then. Okay, and then Darlene Sanchez.
No.
Okay. All right, we'll leave that there. Anyway, if this is Matt, guy with headphones, does he look?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
He's walking home from work.
Got it. After my skateboarder from last year, I'm a little like, wait, where are you? So once he's connected to audio, that'll be great. Matt, can you hear us? Matt, Mateo? Well, maybe Fabiola, if you could get us going.
Okay, yes. So I'm Fabiola Lopez, and I'm a community organizer for UFCW 21, where we're hoping that Matt could, are you there, Matt?
You just mouthed yes.
So let me tell you, so as he tries to get connected, we want Matt to talk. He's an RN at Prov and lives in your neighborhood. And so who better to tell you what's going on than your own neighbor and the nurse. But let's see. We can't hear you.
Okay. So my name is Matt. I'm an RN at Providence. So we just wanted the neighborhood to be aware of the current contract negotiations. And currently our employer Providence is wanting employees to pay for parking. And I live in the neighborhood, and I already see an impact from, people coming and parking for long periods of time. So we just wanted everyone to be aware. One thing was brought to my attention today, that when the towers were built 10 years ago, there was a huge parking impact in the neighborhood. And I don't know if y'all remember that, but there was, a lot of garbage and, just your parking spot, the spots that you normally depend on were being occupied. Sorry, I'm walking home. So, if that's something that resonates with you, that you want to not have, a bunch of people parking in the neighborhoods and taking your spots, we really would appreciate your support and supporting the union and the nurses. I'll have signs available at my house if anyone is interested in showing their support for the union and for nurses in the neighborhood. We've had negotiations today. I think they're still going on. And then we go back to the table the 24th and 25th. So yeah, this is a really big impact. What Providence is trying to increase carpooling, which is great. But I think what they're missing is that so many, this Everett is urban, and some people that live here could maybe get carpooling and buses and things like that. But so many of my fellow RNs live on Woodby Island, Arlington, Smoky Point, like really far outlying areas that are not at all conducive to carpooling. And for them to go about it by like charging us and is kind of not the greatest method, I don't think. And so I just wanted to reach out and inform, the impact possibly of, paid parking at Providence and how it would impact the neighborhood. So thanks for letting me come to your meeting. And does anyone have any questions or?
Yeah, Matt, how much is the parking rate and what are they proposing that employees would pay?
I believe their starting request is $25, and right now we're just negotiating the RN contract, but it would trickle down and affect housekeepers, like the lower wage employees, housekeeping, CNAs, and they would all eventually also be asked to pay for parking as well.
And is that 25 a month, 25 a day?
I believe it's a month.
Okay.
And again, that's no guarantee that there's a parking spot. So you're not paying $25 for like a designated spot. You're just paying for access to the garage. And that's still not enough spots for all employees all the time. So there's still going to be, some impact. And certainly there'll be people that will just maybe not, want to pay and just choose to go on the street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking around at neighbors. I know there's a few that live closer to that area. John, do you have a question?
Why do they say they want to have the employees pay for it?
Well, my understanding is when they built the towers, they had told the city of Everett that they would get like a carpool rate, and it's the carbon footprint. They're trying to, address that by having us pay for parking. But that, I believe, was their goal, is to kind of honor what they told the city they would do when they built the towers, which is, increase carpool rates by employees.
Any other questions from neighbors?
Yeah, is parking the primary concern?
I mean, are you talking about like the contract as a whole, or?
Yeah, it seems to me, from what I've been reading, that there are some other concerns that would affect patients, as well as the nursing staff that folks are supporting.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Parking, I think the reason we wanted to present that to this neighborhood association is it would directly affect you. But I mean, also we're trying to get staffing, you know, ratio. Staffing is always a huge issue. And I know other hospitals have like a designated break nurse. And so there's certain things that Providence is lacking in, and we're trying to be competitive with the Seattle area hospitals. So yeah, there's wages, there's staffing, there's vacation time. They're trying to take away our extended illness benefit. And the state of Washington now has a short-term disability, but that was designed for small businesses and not a giant corporation like Providence. And so they're trying to just take away their our extended illness benefits and just rely on the state program. So that's one thing. I won't go on. I'm not on the bargaining team, so I don't know all the specifics. But yeah, parking is just one of the issues.
Yeah, well, good question. I was going to say that I think from all of us here being so close to the hospital, we certainly see the traumas come and go and the helicopters flying over. And I know that a lot of people in the neighborhood, we all kind of just sort of lift like whoever is flying in, because we want everyone to come out again. So it is critical for care that people are supported in that work. My husband happens to be a nurse too, although not at hospital level. So I know the challenges, and I appreciate very much the work that all of you do, because it is not easy. And it's very demanding. And I think this last year and a half has been incredible, the pressure that has been on the healthcare staff to take care of all of us. So from my perspective, thank you so very much for your work.
Yeah.
So
Thank
we
you
wanted
guys
to,
for your support. We all appreciate it.
yeah, what Matt nailed it is we wanted to just focus on the parking because it was a community issue with the neighborhood, but there is other issues that we're getting ready to go on the ULP strike. So, and more information will be coming out soon, because we are at the bargaining table and we're trying to get a good, fair contract with, we are with a mediator. So we are at the table today, and we're back on the 24th and the 25th, and we'll see what happens at those two other bargaining dates. And like we said, Matt lives in the neighborhood, so he will have yard signs. And Carrie, could I give you his address? And then you guys could just pick them up from his house, and display your support. And hopefully we get a fair contract soon.
Yeah, just put it in the chat. I can add that to the minutes. Absolutely. Any other questions?
Can we get management to come in and make a presentation?
We did about 2 years ago. I think it was in June.
Same issues.
Yeah, the parking was the issue then too, because I think that at that point, that's when they were implementing the change in the garage. And so that it would be paid parking for all. So, I mean, to some extent, the other side of it in terms of traffic, and I still don't see an officer here, but another thing that I wanted to cover, so it kind of blends in, is that traffic safety through the neighborhood remains a challenge, as it does everywhere, because people are driving way too fast for conditions pretty much all the time. But the crosswalks is something I noted. We're still waiting, and I know Holly, if she was here, would be yelling up and down to get one on Colby so people could cross safely from the park to the hospital. I've certainly driven on 13th, and it is just nutso with people trying to come and go between staff and people that are in a hurry because their loved one's not doing well. So I would just encourage people to slow down. So parking is a big deal to keep cars away from here. I don't know if it would be good then to have Because I think the gentleman, Dennis, no, that's not it. I'll think about the person from the hospital. But anyway, we can maybe talk about that in the fall.
Just 2 years ago, they were talking about encouraging the staff members not to park in the neighborhood, but they could not compel them not to do that. And in my walks around the neighborhood, I often see people parking up within a block or two of the hospital and walking over.
Yeah.
Even when the parking lot has spaces in it.
Well, that's the thing I was going to get to. My brain is full. Is that by block, neighbors can petition the city to have parking limits put on those blocks so that they could be 2 hours, and then you can park by permit only. And certainly some blocks around the hospital have done that, but not all. And all neighbors have to agree for that to go into effect. But that would be, if anyone has any questions, I can help with that process. But it has to be the neighbors on that block. It can't just be the neighborhood association trying to do that on behalf of neighbors.
Good point.
Yeah. And that's possible by the college too. I mean, there are other challenges, right? Yeah. But anyway, thank you again, Matt and Fabiola. Feel free to stay on. Something else may come up for a question too.
I just worked a 12-hour day, so if you don't mind, I'm gonna go in and shower. And but
yes, feel free
thank
to.
you guys so much for your support.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You
Thanks.
bet.
And please, if you need signs, we'd love to have your support. And I just live on Rockefeller here, so
Okay.
we'll coordinate that if you guys want them. So
That sounds great. Yeah, just send me the address in the chat. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for your work.
We
you're
have,
very welcome. Thank you.
thanks. Senator June Robinson, welcome to our meeting. Now I can see your face.
Thank you.
Would
Nice
you
to
like
be here.
Would you like to say a few words from the state level about what's going on? Because I still don't have my police officer, so we have a little
Oh,
flex time, but also what I want to talk about is events. But by all means, we would love to hear from Paul, I think for a city council update, because I don't see Brenda. But Senator Robinson, if you'd like to say a few words, that would be excellent.
sure. Well, thanks, Carrie. It's nice to be here. It's been a while since I've been to a Northwest neighborhood meeting, unfortunately. Well, the legislative session for 2021 ended at the end of April, so we are not in session currently. It was a unique and challenging session, as the year has been for everyone, because we legislated by Zoom this year, which was pretty remarkable, but we got a lot done. We did major policy around climate change. We instituted a cap and invest policy for the state. We passed a low carbon fuel standard so that we match California, Oregon, and British Columbia in that regard. We passed childcare policy to make childcare more affordable for more families in Washington. Not everyone yet. We're not at the place where we have universal free preschool yet, but slowly inching our way in that direction. We passed a capital gains tax. So first time that we've been able to pass a progressive tax in many years of trying to start to shift the tax burden in our state to folks who have wealth. On the flip side of that, we passed a working families tax credit so that it sort of matches the earned income tax credit at the federal level, so that folks who are working but not earning as much will get some money back from the state at the end of the year as sort of a rebate for the high sales tax that we all pay. Patrick Hall says we passed an increase to the Main Street tax credit. We did a lot of policy, and we passed an amazing state budget, both capital and operating. We were very fortunate to have the revenue for the state increase as the year went on. And then we had the amazing boost from the federal government from their recovery package, which we were able to then appropriate through our state budgeting process at the same time. So lots of money flowing out into our communities for things like helping small businesses with grants to recover with their unemployment so that their rates are not, unemployment rates are not going sky high. I mentioned early learning and childcare. Money to food banks. We really, rental assistance, if you know anybody who's not been able to keep up on rent, VOA is our local agency that is administering all that rental assistance. So please send anybody that you might know that needs help there. So just a myriad of good work that we were able to do. And I'm happy to be home and doing a lot of yard work right now in the off session. So you might see me out in my front yard. And, love living in this neighborhood and connecting with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your service. And I mean, it's got to be interesting now you have your new role because you've switched from the House to the Senate. So how was that transition for you?
Yeah, I spent 7 years in the House, so I know the players. So that was not hard, but it is a different organization, slightly different norms, and it's still the same work, but fewer people. There's only 49 senators versus 98 House members, so literally half as many people, which just changes all the dynamics. Anybody who's gone from a small group to a large group or vice versa knows that the size of the group makes a big difference. So, but it's hard for me to really comment because I can't tell what's Senate versus having a virtual session. There was just a lot of newness and differentness to navigate. So hopefully we'll be able to be back in person for 2022.
Yeah, that's great. Does anyone have any questions for June?
Why'd you raise the gas tax on the poor with your low carbon fuel standard? They live on that stuff every day. Food, housing, gas. And
right.
You up 50 cents a gallon.
Well, we don't know. That is, in California, it did not go up that much.
Your fat cat neighborhood doesn't care about 50 cents a gallon, but those people live on it.
Very aware of that. And I don't think we'll see that much increase, but I understand your concern.
It's disgusting.
Carrie, I have a question to our senator from our district.
Mm-hmm.
It's not much of a question, but every time I get a chance to see Senator June Robinson and Representative Emily Wicks and Representative Mike Sells, I just want to thank them for a couple of things. May I? I just want to thank her and the other two members of the Snohomish County team for what they have done since this session is over with and will continue to do. They have created jobs when no other legislative area are having a good time as we are creating jobs. And I want to thank her for the help that the port got for the Northern Terminal cargo development that would create jobs, economic development, help economic development for our region. And I just want to thank her for that. And also thank her for helping Emily working on the bill that will create jobs up in CIC, the Cascade Industrial Center, that would bring jobs to our area. So my thumb up to all three of them. Thank you very much, Senator. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Paul?
I want to add to that. Senator, thank you. I think you've done some great heavy lifting, you and your colleagues. I think the work that was done on the climate area is huge, and we're dealing with this writ large. So I just want to thank you for that. Also, the child care piece is so important because we have really seen the challenges of particularly women in the workforce really not being able to fully participate in the workforce, and that's really become an issue. And so there's just a lot of issues there that you and your colleagues did a great job on, and
I'd like to second what David and Paul said. I've been very impressed. I tend to lobby the legislature, but only from a rather narrow point of view in regard to school retirees. And I didn't have much hope for this session, considering all the difficulties that it had at the time. And I was amazed by all the measures that were passed that I thought were really good for the state and that will carry us forward in the future in such a difficult legislative session with everything being done over computer. And I was very pleased by the outcome. So I was impressed. I have to admit, I wrote to the senator and thanked her because I normally have such a narrow view and I just look at what we're concerned about. But in the month afterwards, when I got to see all the legislation that was being signed into law, I was so impressed. So well done.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. Thanks, Senator Robinson. Okay, let's move to Paul. If you could give us an update from City Council.
sure. So the main challenges that we're dealing with have to do with the budget, and we have begun the FY22 budget process and had a very good discussion last night. The council really it has started to dig into the details of what FY22 might look like. So that's underway. There are a couple of other big initiatives that I want to bring to your attention. One of them is the Rethink Housing work that's underway, and the rough draft of that work has now come forward to sort of the public, open to the public and to the Planning Commission. It would focus, and I'm digging through a lot of pages of material, so I will give a high overview, but more to come. It will focus on housing in the middle. It will focus on low and moderate income and middle income housing, and dealing with some of the structural housing issues that we face, particularly as we are at a point where housing costs and income are about as far apart as they've been in decades. And so trying to find affordability for, particularly for younger folks and families, is huge. And that's something that the this housing work is intended to address, and it will deal with density. So there'll be some challenges in terms of how we look at our zoning laws and the modifications we make to them. But I think that that'll be something that we will want to make sure the neighborhoods are all aware of. And the second part of that is Rethink Transit, and thanks in part to the to some of the CARES Act funding, all the transit systems really around the country are struggling because some ridership has gone down, but is coming back because of COVID. But the costs are really huge in terms of the impacts that they have. So, and Everett Transit has been struggling financially quite apart from COVID. So that's something that is on our docket, so to speak. And then on the climate change issues, you're aware that we have passed a climate plan, and so the climate action plan, and I did bring forward last night. I have been tasked with moving on those issues and brought forward a strategy that dealt with EV charging infrastructure, electric vehicle charging infrastructure, and get that work started. Looking at transportation and land use linkages, which really goes back to the Rethink Housing piece, and also green economic development. And there's been some companies that have sited in Everett. And so there's some news to be brought forward there. And last but not least is making sure that we have citizen participation work in this as we go forward. And so all of those were brought forward in a discussion mode for the council last night. As far as the EV infrastructure is concerned, I have been meeting and have another meeting scheduled with the Snohomish County PUD. And as you are aware, if you move to an electrified transportation system, then the PUD will certainly be the ones providing the electrons, which will be the fuel. So they need to be part of that. They've been a great partner. We have good discussions going on, and we want to do this work together. So more to come on all of those fronts, but particularly the budget, because the city's budget is still in a structural challenge, and we're going to have to make some hard decisions to deal with that. So I'm happy to answer any questions, Kari, but again, more to come on all of these fronts.
Does anyone have any questions for Paul?
I'm a little,
Oh, well, Tim and then John.
okay, I'm a little curious about the details of the EV charging infrastructure. I'm always looking for a place to plug in.
Yeah, I have been looking at models around the country, and the rough draft that I have of an ordinance is really follows largely Palo Alto's. But this is very much a moving target, because there really aren't very many good models at this point, and that's why we're talking with the PUD. This particular ordinance draft looks at new construction for residential and commercial buildings, and requires them, or would require them, to be wired appropriately so the infrastructure can be plugged in. In other words, to put it in simple terms, if you have a 240 dryer, 240 volt dryer hookup, that's what you need. And what we want to make sure is, as we construct new buildings, that wiring capacity and infrastructure is in place so that we can plug in cars. But the question of what we require in public spaces is still very much in play. And I've been working with Puget Sound Regional Council, with the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency, and others to come up with some strategies so that we might come up with approaches that would be regional, as opposed to simply one city doing one thing and one city doing another, and making sure that the utilities, including in this case PUD, but also Puget Sound Energy, Seattle City Light, Tacoma City Light, those are the ones that are the big players in the region, that we're trying to find out what they're doing. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the legislature has asked the utilities to be coming up with those strategies. I could be wrong there, and Senator Robinson might know more about that than I do, but that's certainly what the PUD is doing. They are trying to think through, what does this mean in terms of load capacity and how they would deliver that load capacity going forward. So sorry for the long-winded answer, Tim. That's a long-winded way of saying I'm not sure yet, but we know there's a lot of moving parts here, and we're trying to figure out the best way to coordinate them.
Thank you.
John. John, did you still have a question? Unmute yourself.
Last meeting, Brenda Stonecipher said she would look into whether the city is going to earthquake-proof the water pipes that feed our system. I've never heard from her. So do you know of anything in the budget that deals with that?
I don't, John. Can you elaborate a little more? That I have some background in water and utilities, but I'm not sure what that references.
An article in the Herald a month and a half ago said that only 1 out of 430 pipes was earthquake proofed. And that in the case of an earthquake, we weren't going to have any water in Everett.
Okay, so that would be the seismic. I got you. I haven't heard about that. I know that new construction tends to be more seismically sound, so to speak. But I do not know of the risks of our systems. I suspect in a major earthquake, we would have to deal with some major severed water systems. But I don't know that for a fact. So that's something that the utility, our water utility folks would be better to answer than me. I mean, I did used to run utilities, and we had some real risks associated with seismic events, but I can't answer specifically what that looks like for Everett. It's a very good question. There's been a lot of discussion going on about that.
I wanted to, thanks, John, and thanks, Paul. Mara had joined because she put a comment on Facebook. So sorry, I missed that one. That would love to see better bike infrastructure at the hospital. That's something I could certainly pass along to them. I would like to see better bike infrastructure just about everywhere, because you want to be able to lock up your bike so it doesn't get stolen in this time where bikes are not available anywhere. So I appreciate that comment. Yeah.
And let me say, Kari, if I might, again, of the 4 areas that we are looking to try to move something forward this year, albeit incrementally,
Yeah.
but the land use, housing, and transportation link is one of them, and trying to do a better job. We have some pretty interesting non-motorized transit infrastructure, but it's not connected as well as it could and should be. The city public works folks are well aware of that, and we're trying to find a little bit of money here and a little bit of money there to do that work. Sadly, it's incremental, but that's what we're trying to do. And there is a recognition that that needs to happen, so non-motorized transportation it gets a little bit better shake in the budget process.
Yeah, that's great. Any other questions for Paul?
Bring back Lime scooters.
Well, it's interesting. I've seen some scooters around town, but they're not Lime scooters. And I don't know, they're like black with maybe a red trim. That sounds silly, but I don't know if they're people that just own these things, because they are low impact, really. Plug them in and you're good to go. But I don't think the city has a program this year.
I don't believe we do, Kari, but we're certainly seeing an increase in the number of electric bikes.
Yeah.
And that again is part of that trail and connection infrastructure to try to get them off of sidewalks and onto streets, but in a safe fashion.
Yeah. Well, and with that, I'd love to just sort of move to a safety discussion if we could, because that was part of the reason we were having the officer. And I am assuming that the reason they're not here is because they have other things that are more important to be doing. And I have already passed along some of those concerns. I know Diane in my neighborhood, the challenge that I hear from emails from neighbors as well as just down the street is that cars race down Grand. They start at the marina and they rev it up there, and then you hear them go all the way around Marine Drive, up around the peninsula. They go on the east side to East Marine Drive through Delta neighborhood, and they basically just make a lot of noise. And the other night, there was this one car that was cruising through. It was a motorbike, and it probably drove through, I think, 3 times in a row to make a point. I'm not quite sure. So we called the cops because it was just like, but how do you get them, right? Because it's a matter of license plate timing, having an officer available because it has to be seen. So there's a lot of factors that make it difficult for that to be enforced. So my encouragement to neighbors is when you hear it or see it, call it in, and then we'll get somebody up here to sort of watch. And that goes for really everywhere. If you see something, call it in. Even if you don't, you're just not sure. I will admit I was somewhere else in town about a week or so ago, and I just had that, like, you get that little feeling, should I call the police? Call the police. That's what they do. And it's an imperfect system. I'll put that side of it too. But at the same time, what happens is that there's a trend, and then they notice the trend. And with that trend, they can take action on that trend. So I really encourage people to call. But the other piece that I noticed after that night is that we were standing out on the street. Cars would drive slow us because they saw us, right? Like, oh, somebody's in my field. What I also noticed is that when you look down Grand, and I know I get can we bring back the speed bumps? No, we can't. They're not going to work. They won't put them in again. What about making it a one-way street? Well, they're not going to do that too, because people actually speed up when it's a one-way street. But what I noticed that there are 0 crosswalks aside from 16th and 19th. And even if it was a white line that went across the intersection, I think it changes in people's mind what they're seeing. And they think someone might actually cross here, or a car might come into that intersection. And it really is a city question that I meant to send to Michael, because I'm just curious why that is the case. I mean, I certainly hear it from other neighborhoods too, that there aren't enough crosswalks. But even if we just painted a white line, I think it would change the dynamic. So I'd love to open it up for discussion if people that have more legislative authority than I can address some of that. And Diane, by all means, yeah, she was there that evening when we were talking about this too. So
yeah, can you hear me, Kari? I'm driving, so I don't want to be distracting, but I do have information to share. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, can hear you fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I've called a couple times since then. I've called 2 or 3 times that night with conversation with officers all of those times. And I've spoken with the Sergeant Wallace from that division a couple times as well. And so far the result is they increased their patrol of the marina and of West Marine View Drive to twice in a certain time period instead of just once. And they've posted signage down there saying that no activity after dusk. And I did get clarification that, oh, sorry, I'm running into a little traffic thing here. Just a second. Okay, good. That, you know, we have every right to call. They want us to call. They want to enforce everything they can. They are citing citations. Sergeant Wallace went and spoke to the security division at the gate, at the naval post down there, because my family did some research and found that there are Instagrammers who are videotaping themselves speeding down West Marine View Drive and including a picture of their dashboard going 85 miles an hour and talking about how, you know, bad they are. And they're all excited about the fact that they're speeding to work to go to the naval post down there. So we got information of that, and there's some car plates that you can see in those Instagram feeds, and we shared them with the police department. And they're aware of some folks over there, a diver specifically, and some others who are doing some of this stuff. And and one of our neighbors nowadays also is affiliated with the commander down there, and they want information about those folks because their kids can't sleep at night with all that going on. So that's good progress. And what else was there? Yeah, so the sergeant shared that, you know, in the past, if this type of activity does concern anyone who works at the naval station, it can affect their career. And so they definitely want to know what's going on that front because they want to keep Everett safe. And what else was there? I think there was one more thing. Sorry, I just drew a blank there. I've been working all day. Oh, well, I guess it would come back to me. But I had another, oh yeah, I know what it was. I thought it was interesting that night that it was so disturbing. My husband decided to go down there just to see what was going on and took some videos with his iPhone of a whole crew of folks, you know, doing donuts and popping wheelies and rearing back on their motorcycles, both cars and motorcycles, and then leaving in a parade down that, was it 10th that's down there? I can't remember. And then getting on to West Marine View to head north. And it just so happens when I was up on the bluff on Grand at exactly the same time, I was disgusted with the noise and just took a video just to hear the noise. So we have the same timestamp on our videos. And it's a very interesting contrast to see and hear the activity down there on West Marine View compared to how it sounds on Grant, because the noise of the muffler reverberations on Grant echoes down through the alleys and over onto Rucker and Colby, and it sounds like gunshots. And my dog is terrified at night now, and sometimes won't even eat. So it's not just that some people are having a good time. We like to have a good time with cars too. We like their cars. It's not that. it's just so disturbing. And it's nice to know that the police department supports our position. They want to be called. If they're free, they will respond, and that they've changed their response to the situation, at least so far. So I will pause and see if someone else wants to make a comment or ask a question. But Kari, I do want to ask one more question before we close the meeting, if I could.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we still have a little time. Anybody else have thoughts, questions about this? Observations? I appreciate in the chat that this is an old thing. Yes, I think cruising has happened in Everett for as long as I can remember, but I use Broadway. Or not Broadway, I should say Evergreen Way. We would cruise Evergreen, and now they have the signs out there. Yes. And somebody said they like the lines on the street. Yeah. But anyone else want to say something?
So Kari, I just wanted to say, I mean, I've taken some notes and I'll be sending in those notes to EPD, you know, in the next day or so. And I just want to reinforce, you hit it right on the head when you described that you call, even though there may not be a response, there's a call log.
Mhm.
And so it becomes part of the decisions as to where to deploy resources. And so if you're deploying limited resources, that call log will be part of the evaluation to make that call, so to speak. So just want to reinforce that. Thanks.
Absolutely. Mara.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say that I mean, this is like an imminent problem that, you know, we want to take care of immediately, but I really like the idea of focusing resources on engineering the problem out rather than trying to chase after the fact, because doing police resources in that way, it's really, I don't want to say it's counterproductive, but it doesn't really solve the problem. You're doing it incident by incident. And, you know, like it was already said, it's really difficult to catch people who are going 90 miles an hour in a loop. I mean, and then it's reverberating. So it's really difficult. I live on Grand. It's very hard to tell where the sound is actually coming from anyway. So you might think they're down on Marine View, but they're already, you know, way past. So I really like the idea of focusing on engineering that problem out. With the painting of the street is really effective. And a lot of schools around have done that with interesting art pieces and things like that through and it doesn't even have to just be lines, it can be artwork. And it really does. I've driven through these streets that have a lot of paint and artwork and stuff. And you slow down immediately. You can't help yourself but to go, oh, am I even supposed to be driving through here? So it's very effective. So I just wanted to say that I really like focusing on that. That's it.
Thank you. That's interesting. I like artwork. That would be cool. I mean, within reason, I suppose, for the street safety, but some visual cue, there's an intersection there. Because the other piece that is challenging in our neighborhood, and I think across the city, is parking, as we were talking about earlier. And people park to the edge of the block, and it's very difficult to see around as well. That's why I just think as you're trying to get out in the intersection, or if someone's trying to cross, walking or whatever, and you can't see. So it's something that can give them the cue that, no, something may happen here and you should be aware of it. Any other thoughts?
I guess that's an interesting hypothesis that it could be. I mean, I've been a sailor myself, so I get it. I've seen it. When I was stationed in Orlando, one of my shipmates killed a family of 4 in his motorcycle. He hit the car so hard. And I don't know. I don't want to prejudge anybody. I will say that if it is sailors, though, you definitely have recourse. If they're observed going in and out of the base. And so it's probably, it might be good just to take pictures, and then base security might have that vehicle registered on the base. So it's probably a good thing to check up with. The thing is about, military people is that they rotate through every couple of years. Their whole lives revolve around the base. They don't feel much of an investment in the communities that they live in because of the way their lives are set up. Especially if they're single, you can be much more invested if you're married, but then you might be in special, you know, military housing where all the Navy families live in one neighborhood that's far away from the base or something. I don't know. But I do think that it's something to look into. Maybe if we can even get photographs or video of the bikes, and then we could check in with base security, you know, that might be one avenue.
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah. Emily, did you have a question?
Oh, just a comment that we just moved to Northwest neighborhood about 3 months ago after living in Harborview, Seahurst, Glenhaven for 13 years. And we had the same issue and the echoing because they'd race down Mukilteo Boulevard, up Greenwood, and then down like Merrill Creek Parkway out through that light industrial area and around the quarry. And yeah, it's annoying. And for a little while, people were like racing around the Glenhaven loop. And I would just stand on my front porch with the phone and just watch them. And even if it was 1 o'clock in the morning, I'd turn on my porch light, stand out there with my phone and just stare at them. You know, it was a little bit of a deterrent, but yeah, I work closely with the police in my job at the library, and they say, yeah, every phone call is documented. And even if we can't get to it right away, if we get 12 calls, it suddenly bumps way up our priority list.
Yeah. Thanks, Emily. And welcome to the neighborhood.
It only took 3 years to get our house remodeled.
You know.
Yeah, just a few years.
Longer for, yeah. Well, any other thoughts on this? Because I would love to move to fun stuff. Because it's summer almost. Solstice is Sunday, I believe, right?
Well, Kari, this isn't a fun thing, but it's
Okay,
a
then
different topic.
Okay, go ahead. We'll do the unfun.
Yeah.
We'll come to fun.
So real quick, when I was driving home last night and around the peninsula going from East Marine shifting over to West Marine, right there where Broadway enters in and there's a nice grassy knoll and all that, there's a pretty noticeable homeless encampment there now. Do we know, can someone summarize for me what our procedure is in Everett when a citizen wants to respond to that problem, and how can we know if it's already being addressed or not?
Paul?
So yeah, let me, I'll give that a go. First of all, like many other things, reporting it is the number one thing. The challenge that every city has, and Everett's no different, is that we, as a matter of case law and law, we have to have, we can't just remove encampments unless there's a law being broken. So if it's on private property and there's trespassing issue, that becomes sort of on the scale, the easiest way. We have a COET team, which is trying to help people not be on the streets, but in other shelter areas. And we're trying to develop more shelter areas. So, but in the absence of them, and in the absence of laws being broken, there are some real limitations as to what the city can do to simply move them out. So we can try to work with them. We do have both trained police as well as social workers who are working with our police department, but there are no easy, quick answers. And we do try to work to eliminate those encampments. And there are several right now that we're working with in Everett. So that's the best answer I can give you. The best approach is to find housing like what we're trying to develop around Smith Street, in pallet shelter or small housing, where we can get people off the streets, stabilized, and try to get some services. And when that happens, there's a pretty good success rate. When it doesn't, there isn't. So that's sort of the challenge that Everett is facing and all cities are facing.
What about that concept of having a law against public camping? Has that been entertained in Everett?
It hasn't, but there is a case called the Boise case in which the Ninth Circuit has said, if you haven't provided the shelter, you cannot tell people that they cannot camp on public or sleep on public property and public right of way. And so that has become an interesting challenge legally, as we have attempted to address some of those issues. The city has received letters from legal offices that have threatened to sue the city on the basis of the Boise case. So that was the case I was referencing. There is now a new case in Los Angeles that essentially has much of the same principles embedded within that case. So that is the challenge that we're facing. Again, I think the best approach we have is try to get some shelters built and then try to move people off the streets and into those shelters.
Absolutely. Any more questions? These are great. This is a great discussion. I do want to move to fun because it is sunny and warm, and I always just say everybody go outside, but there is stuff. So one thing I wanted to go over, our neighbors at Everett Community College are doing a commencement ceremony this Friday, tomorrow from 4 to 7, and they're heading out on Wetmore and exit, I guess, from the college. And I have these signs that basically, if anybody wants one, I've got about 10 or something. You can put them up in your window, or if someone wanted to drive down that route, we can probably put them somewhere. But anyway, Everett Community College is graduating, so that's exciting. Also, let's see, back to this. The plant sales happening at the Arboretum this weekend. I am a big fan of plants, as you probably all know. So that's happening Saturday and Sunday, and half price Monday. Also, the 4th of July is back. In this case, there will be fireworks at the Legion of Boom, whatever they call it, down on the waterfront, Thunder something. And then there will be events or bands, food trucks, beer garden, etc. at Legion. They're making it abundantly clear that there is no parking. So there's a shuttle that'll be going from the college to the park. And I expect that probably Grand Avenue Park will also be very full of people as well, and the bridge for the fireworks. The mother of all garage sales coming back up, which is very exciting. I have posted, this is the entry or the registration form. There's a bunch of printed copies at the park on the Drew Nielsen board. And the early bird deadline will be July 23rd. What that means is that you'll be on the printed map, which I think you can see me beyond the thing maybe, but the printed map, the online map, then also it's less money, 20 bucks. And then after that, July 24th to August 4th is late registration, but then you will not be on the printed map because we got to get them off to the printer, but you'll still be on the online map. This is our biggest fundraiser. We were not able to do it last year. When we have money in the bank, we can actually do cool stuff. I know Russ joined the meeting at some point. So treasurer, if you can unmute and say what our bank account is.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, it's still about 6,000. We paid Delta for the supplies. And I've had one person is already reserved for MOAGs, and 2 other people inquired about the details.
Awesome.
And I also got another dues payment today.
Always nice. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Russ. So these are available. It's on the website. It's online. I'll have it on the Facebook event, but you can find everything on the website. Also on the waterfront for the 4th, Everett Music Initiative is doing a Rock the 4th. So this will be by the Weyerhaeuser building. So they have a live concert that night. And I also picked up on their page that Music at the Marina will be back. And that's typically by that one over there. So there's more music coming, which if anyone went to Sorticulture, it was fantastic to sit and hear live music again. Oh my gosh, how wonderful. Fresh Paint's going to be at the port in August on the 21st and 22nd. And then I just wanted to quickly go over our calendar because we aren't going to meet in July and August. We're going to take a break, but we're still pondering and working through what the cleanup might be at Everett Community College Dumpster Day. There's some special paperwork that has to be done. I know that people want it to happen. If it does, it'll probably be after Mother of All garage sales. And if not in August or September, then. And then we'll have meetings back the third Thursday, the September 26th, or excuse me, 16th. And that should be Neil Anderson. He's going to go over the history of the mills. October 21st will be Mayor Cassie Franklin. November 18th is open. And then we'll do the holiday gathering and the lights at the park, December 4th. So that's kind of the year. There's other stuff happening in general, but now that's where I get to hear from all of you. What else is going on? These are the big events that are happening in Northwest. And for us, the biggest one really to come will be Mother of All garage sales. So any questions on any of that? And I think Emily put something in about summer reading at the library. Lovely, in the chat.
Yes, and also spread the word that we are loaning hotspots and Chromebooks to anyone with a library card. We're finding that while Everett has really good broadband coverage, it's a matter of affordability. And people who have insecure housing have a hard time accessing broadband because you can't install broadband at your house if you don't have a house, or an address. So we're applying for, we're working with the city to go after some of the emergency relief funds and perhaps even some of the Federal Communications Commission emergency broadband funds. Those are all big projects and it takes lots of coordination, but we're hoping to bring more of our community, get more of them hooked up to high speed quality internet.
That's awesome. Should I just go to the library page? Is there a post about that?
I'll put it up on the chat. It's epls.org/tech, TECH. And that, whoops, hang on. My fingers went the wrong way.
Thanks for sharing that.
There we go. So epls.org tech, and they can be borrowed for 3 weeks. And if there is no one waiting, it can be renewed multiple times.
Cool. That's great. Any other events and things happening that we should know about? Or comments for the greater good?
Carrie, can I share some information?
Please, Port.
This is on Wednesday, June 23rd at 10 o'clock in the morning. The new ferry out at Marketeal, the Port of Everett will be opening up their fishing dock. It's located next to the new ferry dock there. It'll be a fishing dock open up to the public. The commissioners will be having a ribbon cutting on that morning. So you don't have to wait for the ribbon cutting. You can go and visit that fishing dock right now. But here's the thing, and I know Mary and Paul like history. What they did is when they was building the fishing dock, the port fishing dock, they took the old rails from the old dock and moved them to the new dock. So those new old rails that still had the grooves cut in for the fishing poles is still there. So you can put your fishing line on one of those grooves there and possibly catch whatever fish is down there. But it's just the fact that they took the time to move that history from over there to the new history. So Wednesday, June 23rd at 10 o'clock in the morning, it'll be officially open. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. That's fun.
Yeah.
Any other events? Coral, how many vendors do we have at the park for Mother of All garage sales? 2? You're muted, but I can read lips sort of. I know we have road dogs back, right?
Yes. And I don't have a confirmation yet from the pizza thing, but those are the 2 that have expressed interest.
Cool.
And what is the young man's name who I have to contact at City of Everett?
Tyler Chisholm.
Chisholm, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of food trucks at Legion for the 4th. I saw the
Yeah.
list today. It's a long list. So, and
So
some
they'll
recognizable
have
names.
work and everything, so
Mhm.
that's a good thing.
Mhm.
How do you feel? How does everyone feel? I think 4 is enough. Does that sound?
That's about what we've had, right? I think at most we've ever had is like 6. The pizza doesn't take a lot of space. It was the caramel corn one that was huge.
Yeah, yeah. So, but 4 or 5 maximum, I think, is enough. That there's just, we don't have enough foot traffic really to support very many. And then everybody gets a little tiny bit instead of the few people getting enough to make it worthwhile. That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah. And then there's fundraisers through the neighborhood too that people do for food. So there's stuff around.
Yeah. And they could always pack a bag lunch.
Yes. I will say to the greater good that Johnny is going to be our greeter at the park in the morning. We're very excited about that. She's the best hostess with the mostest. And so I was very pleased. Both Coral and I were to hear that she said yes. So.
She's willing to stay all day if we want, if we have time slots available. I said, we have one time slot open to close and you're it. So as much as she's feeling able to do, we'll use her.
Yeah, it's awesome. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a good email to get.
For sure. Yeah. So anything else? Any questions? Last parting shot. We won't have a business meeting until September. I mean, you can always email the neighborhood. I'll respond to you. But seeing faces on screens. If we really need to meet, let me know. But I think that it'll be very nice to just have casual, like, hey, how you doing? Running into each other at Zippy or the park or somewhere else. So that's what I'm looking forward to this summer is real faces outside, get vaccinated. I'll keep pushing that. Let's make it safe for friends and family and everybody else and ourselves. So we can get back to some sort of normal, please. We all need it.
I've ordered wristbands that say you're vaccinated. They're bright blue and they say you're vaccinated. And if I got 11 of them for $25. So they're online. And I thought that it's going to come up at some point in your life. It's going to come up. How do I know you're vaccinated? You just say so. So, it'll say, well, here's my pretty little blue armband because I'm not carrying my little piece of paper around with me.
Yeah. Yep. And still wear your mask if you're inside somewhere, if need be. Mara, go ahead.
Okay, one last parting shot, little idea that I've been thinking about is I wish we could organize some kind of neighborhood bike ride over across the new bridge down to the waterfront just to kind of promote that. So anyway, just wanted to shout out, see what everybody thought. There you go.
I think that's great.
I love riding bikes.
How does one get their bike once you've crossed the bridge? How do you get down to the waterfront with a bike?
They have an elevator. I haven't been on it, but my sons go all the time with my dad. So they take it. So you can just go down there on the elevator, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but if it was a big bike event, how would we get 100 people?
You can, if you're savvy, flip up your bike on its back wheel and bump down the stairs. That's possible too.
Not that I'm going to participate in that, but.
But yes, that would be very fun because certainly we do we have done the Whittier bike ride. It got canceled this year because of COVID last year, but this year maybe will happen in the fall. We'll see. But that would be a fun one to ride to the bridge. That's a good idea. Thanks for bringing it forward. Yeah. And on that, let's leave on a positive note, everybody. Have a wonderful summer. Have a safe summer. Thank you for being here. See you for the shopping day soon and out and about. So grateful to all of you. Thanks.
Thank you, Carrie.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah. Have a great summer. Well, I'll see you around. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Call on what I sent you on the email.
Okay, yes, yeah, no doubt, right?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. All right, see you, everybody.